everybody. I'm Bill Bragan. I'm the Executive Artistic Director of the Arts Center here at NYU Abu Dhabi. And we are always thrilled to gather artists for these conversations. It's part of our Off the Stage series, sponsored by Mubadala. And tonight's event is leading up to Thursday's Tamaas festival. And Tamaas is a reworking in Arabic, for those who don't speak Arabic. It means contact. It is a reworking of a festival that we previously called Barzakh, which referred to sort of a meeting place, a liminal space, literally in the sea, a place where the salt water and the sweet water will be present at the same time, but not dilute into one another. So the idea is this idea of sort of multiple identities coexisting at one time and place. And as we renamed it, I think some of that same impulse still continues, which is the artists that we program for this are products of lots of different influences. They're products of specific geographies, but also traditional approaches, as well as new manifestations of how to express those traditions. And so we wanted this conversation to be a chance to bring some of all the artists together for their first point of contact, and for us to talk a little bit more about your music and your approach and the way you think about some of these ideas. I am here to jumpstart conversation, but I said to some of the panelists, but not all, feel free to ask each other questions. Those who are in the audience, feel free to raise your hand. Don't wait for the question part later on. If you have questions that feel relevant now, raise your hand and let's go with the questions now. And so just thank you all for being here. And I am not going to take the daunting task of giving the definitive introduction for each of you. So I will start on this side. So then this side and that way. You see, already my first rebellion, right? And I'm just going to ask you to very briefly just kind of introduce yourself and your music, and just give people a sense of what your artistic project is.
Yeah.
And we'll start with.
Hi everybody. So my name is Khalil. I'm a Tunisian musician and composer. Mostly I do like electronic music, but I want to say like more traditional North African electronic music. And I'm part of a project with Widad called Aïta Mon Amour. And it's we try to replay this genre called Aïta. It's music coming from the countryside in Morocco in the new way and with the new machine, etc.
Thank you.
Thank you. Instead,
Thank you. It's better, thank you. What a clever man. Wow.
And now you get to go later.
No, I was happy because I was sitting in the middle of men, and now I was like, okay, I am the limit between the two. So I am the second part of Aïta Mon Amour. My name is Widad. I was born, I grew up in Morocco, and I'm very sensitive to the reinterpretation and the reappropriation of my own culture, my own roots. And Aïta Mon Amour, it's our last project that we're still working on it with Khalil. The idea is to bring the spotlight on this genre because it's still unknown out of Morocco. And just bring also the spotlight on the women who sing this tradition. We call them sheikhats. And Khalil said, like, we are not trying to modernize, but we are reinterpreting. It's a reinterpretation with modern tools. So, yeah, it's okay.
سمعتها؟
Yeah.
أنا اسمي أبصار من صعيد مصر. المزيكا.
He speaks Arabic.
اتعرفت عليها في سن صغير قوي 7 سنين مثلا. كنت عايش مع جدي وجدتي في أرض زراعية وكده، فما كانش فيه أي مجال، ما كانش فيه كهرباء، ما كانش فيه أي تواصل مع العالم ككل، تلفزيون ولا كهرباء في المكان اللي كنت عايش فيه.
You guys understand? No one understand? Okay. So I'm going to translate a little bit. I'm not a perfect translator. So Abosahar speaks about he is coming from the Upper Egypt, and the sound he makes is almost has no genre. So he created like a name out of that doesn't mean anything, and he started doing this since he was literally almost 7 years old with his grandparents.
بقيت أعمل أصوات المزيكا بالنباتات والحاجات المحيطة، أنا بكرتون وأحط عليها أساتك.
He mainly uses everything to create music.
فضلت كده بقى، دي كانت علاقتي بالمزيكا، إنها كانت بالنسبة لي همزة وصل كده بيني وبين العالم اللي بره. اللي هو أنا كنت بسمع المزيكا دي مثلا بالصدفة، مثلا في مكان وأنا ماشي وأنا رايح المدرسة مثلا.
This is his only way to communicate with other humans.
لحد بقى ما بقى عندي 16 سنة كده وبدأت.
Until now.
الترجمة صح؟ بس فبدأت إن أنا أعرف
مش تحكي كل حاجة.
الطريقة. Nice to meet you all.
That's been remained a secret.
I know he speaks English. I'm Adam. We have like a record collective in Egypt, an art collective. We do we host artists, and we have like a small studio in Egypt, in Cairo. We do a lot of collaborations with local and international artists. That's all we do in the label. And Abosahar is one of the first people who worked with us. That's it.
Yeah, my name is Cimafunk. I'm Cuban. I started to make my own music with my project in 2018, and it's about all the transculturation, all the descendants from Africa and Cuba in the 1800s, 1800, and all what happened with the music and the relationship between all the countries that after started to get into the islands, and how that music arrived to New York and arrived to the States and arrived to all part of the world, and transforming what we got now as basically pop music, funky, like all this sound is everywhere. So my music is about that. It's the collection of all this groove, and I try to put together in the songs or create this Afro-Cuban sound.
Ouais, moi je m'appelle Makara Bianco, je suis congolais, j'habite à Kinshasa, je suis artiste un peu polyvalent, je joue dans le groupe KOKOKO, donc je fais tout dans le groupe, mais nos projets maintenant c'est un peu mélange, on mélange la musique de l'Afrique et de l'Europe, partout en Amérique, on fait un peu le bio, c'est du nouveau dans le monde quoi, donc c'est un peu ça.
So I will translate for him. His name is Makara Bianco from Kinshasa, Democratic Republic of Congo. And he's a singer of KOKOKO, and he does a bit of everything in the band, percussion, vocals, and yeah, mixing Congolese music, so he sings in Lingala, sometimes the Swahili words, sometimes Kikongo, French, and Lingala mainly, and yeah, that's it.
Thank you.
And my name is Xavier Thomas. I make music under the name Debrouille. I'm in KOKOKO with Makara. And my music is a mix of usually traveling, getting inspiration from different places, collaboration, and sometimes different times in space and history. And it's a mix of elements like this to try and create like a new place or a new sound.
Great, thank you. So I don't know if my question forced it or if it's just the way that we're in the habit of doing it. At NYU Abu Dhabi, where our students come from 120 different countries, when asked to introduce themselves, people tend to introduce themselves based on their passport, often even before where they grew up. But that sense of place is often the first thing that people say, this is who I am, which you all did in a way. And I'm curious about that and how much you feel like that is central to your music, or is it to the side of your music? Is the where you are from? Is that the key aspect of the music that you make?
It can come from this side.
We'll come from that.
Well, for me it's a bit different. It's where I'm going, usually not where I'm from. I've left the place I'm from for a long time ago, so I'm always moving. So I guess for me, like I did different projects. The one before KOKOKO was in Istanbul, with musicians from Istanbul from the 70s and the Turkish psych rock scene and the new scene as well. So I don't know how to make Turkish music myself, but it's always the collaboration of two different worlds to create like another place.
Moi, j'ai commencé ma musique depuis mon enfance. J'ai commencé à partir des rumba. Alors, la musique des taboulets, rochero, Mjama. Mais à un moment, j'ai pris une décision de créer vraiment nos propres musiques pour aller jouer partout dans le monde. C'est pour ça que maintenant, on a créé une idéologie avec Xavier et KOKOKO ensemble. On a créé de nouvelles musiques pour aller jouer partout dans le monde.
La question c'est que si d'où tu viens, qu'est-ce que ça fait en fait de t'exprimer d'où tu viens en fait.
Ouais, moi je viens de Kinshasa. Kinshasa,
c'est important pour toi quand tu chantes dans le monde.
Oui, c'est très important. C'est très important pour. On a besoin de partager une musique partout dans le monde. Donc c'est important pour nous de venir ici.
He says that for him it's very important to share his music in the world, and that his music is where he's from. He started also very young. He sang different styles, rumba, Congolese rumba, dombolo, all the styles of Congo. And I think it's important for him also to show that also Congolese musicians can do all the types of music, because obviously there's been like 40 years of Congolese rumba. The styles are very identified in Congo, but Makara wants to bring it in a wider way, and traveling and showing also his language and how he sings. It's important for him that people can hear something different from Congo.
And just to ask a little bit further, do you think of Congo writ large, or do you think mostly of Kinshasa? And like, is the orientation to the specific city as opposed to the nation?
Il se demande si tu penses Kinshasa ou Congo en général.
Donc on passe toujours en Congo en général. Kinshasa c'est une ville, mais Congo c'est un pays vaste, tu vois. Donc on passe de tout Congo quoi, en général.
He says both, like Congo is so big and so huge, and he identified with this, immensity of the country, and obviously Kinshasa is like a different aesthetic or a different intensity inside of Congo, which is also important for the creativity and the artistic side.
And yeah, for me also it's super important because I used to make all the type of music and play with other bands. And when I was trying to start to make my own project, I started to learn a little bit where I was coming from and what was my roots and what was the Cuban heritage and all the Afro-Cuban sound, the Afro-Cuban movement. And once I started to discover that, that was the injection of power to my music, to my art, to my identity. Because I was a little bit lost. Okay, what am I gonna do this? I'm gonna sing this type of music, more pop, more rock. But once I get into the root, into the identity, I was like, okay, it's about Cuban music, it's about Afro-Cuban roots. So that was the real push that helped me to build my identity, and also that's what I transmit in my lyrics, in my grooves, everywhere.
All right, I'm gonna circle back to that. There's something I want to ask, but I'm gonna go through because I know Abosahar really wants to talk now.
We have different music and different culture. It's far away from Cairo to Abu Dhabi. احنا عندنا عاداتنا وتقاليدنا وعندنا رولز تكاد تكون صارمة في حتة
our own traditions.
فالمزيكا بتاعتنا يعني بحسها ان هي ممكن ما تتقبلش في بره. If I'm not updated and upgraded and use the electronic sound to make it more modern, maybe that's will help me to make a chance for the world to listen to this sound come from Abu Dhabi. Like if we back by history, we not go to listen for low frequency, sub bass and heavy cake. You will not find it in any music. So if I put this upgrade with my with our music, I think that will make
Create a new thing.
Yeah.
What was the question?
Good answer.
It was about the role of place and origin and culture within that.
Yeah.
The rule.
Yeah,
The rule.
We dance with a stick. Like
Do we
that.
have a lot of
Horses.
Yeah.
So you not have to ride a horse to dance at my music right now. In another place and another time, it's come from the past to future. So future, you can't come in this place like that with horse to dance at my music.
But you can.
Let's do it.
Wait,
Can
Let's bring the horse.
You offer this.
You have to update your tour right next time.
Put a horse.
No, but I mean, you created a point that
I talk
different
about
artists
culture.
from other different cultures here in Abu Dhabi.
تحطيب حاجة فن.
So it's an opportunity
تحطيب.
to create a new thing, big thing. Not
تحطيب
just
is
a
a
music
kind
video.
of art in my area, Upper Egypt. It's like you handle stick and someone handle stick, like swords,
Okay.
but like that.
Yeah.
But it's kind of dance. It's art come from my area. Not all people know about it, but it's still here. It's still here, but no one
It's focusing you on it.
yeah, no one listen to it or no one know about it. So I try my best to upgrade our very old music to bring it to future. To give you chance and give everybody chance to listen. Wow, where does this music come from? It's maybe it's kind of more. It's an easy way to make music because I can't handle this big thing and I can't handle it because I start from very simple, only programs, electronic stuff, so you can find it in tablet and iPhone and PC. It's everywhere. Anyone can use it. Not only Abosahar. You can use it. You can make music by keyboard, by the way. Anyone. I don't know, but this is my way to make music. And my مش عارف انا عايز اقول حاجه اكبر شويه بس حاسس انها تبقى صعبه في الترجمه. كده
it's a big thing, but he thinks that it's very difficult to translate.
Okay. You want to try?
Right? Yeah.
زي ما تحب
لا مش زي ما احب
ولا
انا
زي ما تحب احكي ولا احكي
انا جاوبت في اطار السؤال.
في إطار.
لكن هي الموضوع هو بالنسبه لي شايف ان هو challenge but I really feel I'm win. I'm really in my way. عشان انا عمال I reach places and people they didn't know about our music, so that's what I need. So I think I'm on my way, and really thanks to invite me here. And I'm sorry about my broken English.
I think that culture is important in my case for Aïta Mon Amour, because Aïta it's a part of Moroccan culture. It exists only in Morocco. So because it's a part of my DNA, I listen to this music first from my childhood till now on the radio for celebration, shared celebrations, and I was fascinated by those women singing this tradition. And I keep this in a place in my mind and my heart. I think they're in all my small musical journey, and it happens. I don't know why. Just before COVID, I think that I gained on confidence. I feel like maybe more confident to work on this tradition. I feel legitimate maybe, and yeah, that's why it's a part of my influences. It doesn't come from outward, no. It's from my culture. So that the place for me, it's important with this project especially.
Actually, it's really difficult to answer this question because it's like, I think, the subject of my life. So I have a lot of things to answer, but I'll try to be like. I think when I was young, I started like all the people in the world with something more teenager music, rock and rap music, and even if I born in Tunisia, for us making this kind of music is like it's political things too, because you think that's rock music, and this kind of music is like something to protest, and when I start to be like more old, it was frustration for me, because I understand that it's not actually answer all my question and with my identity. It's something that I take from another identity, like for rap music is coming from special area and etc. And they have their own word to say what for their frustration. And so nothing represents me like an identity, and with all the complex things that I am. So I think we start this new generation to trying to bring this music with this what we call traditional music in something that it will be us, but in this time, and stopping to see this kind of music something from the past. And there is a lot of things to say about it, like for example this word music that we invite in 20 years ago, to put all the music in the same bag, and for the others and other things. So there is really a lot of things to say about it, but I think it's something a question, really complex question. We should have like a lot of time to talk about it, but yeah, it's mainly but yes, I think one of the things too is because when I listen a lot of music coming from everywhere, and I start to be ennuyé, bored, and I think it's true, when I'm trying to listen more and more music like electronic or rock and everything, I start to be bored, and I understand because it's coming from just one, all this music coming from somewhere, and because it start to be all the music in the same. And now when you start to listen of the pop, or Western pop or rap pop, everything is the same thing. I mean, it's like a little difference, but everything is the same. And because I think a lot of culture don't take their and we forget this diversity of the music in the world. We put world music all in the same bag, and after have jazz, rock, and etc. So I think it's the time to start to really take this music like something that's not just here and here, but like and not to do it in our way in this time.
Yeah, and I will say that one of the reasons we came up with these names for this festival was because we really wanted to avoid using world music as the title. I've been working in the field for a long time, and nobody has ever liked it. It served a very particular function at a very particular time in the 80s to help to get records into stores so you knew what bin to look in. And ever since then, people have complained about it. And so it's something that I think this, kind of that question is always really important. And about in music that is a fusion or a hybrid or is just who you are, right? And what you grew up and how it all comes together. I think those are the things that we're trying to get at when we put together the lineup for the festival. I believe that Abosahar is still living more or less where you grew up.
Yeah.
And none of the rest of you are, right? Are you all? You're in Kinshasa, and everybody else is living in diaspora, right? And so I'm curious about that and about how that influences your music. I'm thinking about, for example, you define your music as, as being Afro-Cuban music, but now you're in New Orleans, which is the most African of U.S. cities, arguably, but is decidedly not Cuba despite the historic relations. So I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about either about why it's important for you to remain kind of in your rooted place and how that helps your music, or why living outside of your rooted place is good for your music.
These are very tough, very tough questions.
Yes.
Very tough.
So you get to go first.
Okay.
It's a middle how it's working.
انت بص هو بيسأل على انت ازاي قاعد وقاعد لسه في المية وبتعمل مزيكا. بس قلت قاعد.
ان احنا كلنا
ان عندك
ايوه. قول لي معرفتك بالحته.
هو
اللي ما قالش كده.
الميوزك اصلا يعني بحسها انا واحد اقول لك شويه وانت تعرف. المزيكا بحس انها حاجه لها علاقه بالروح اكتر او التشافي او التعافي كده، هو حاجه هيلسي كده.
Music is for his view is the music itself has nothing related to just a place. It's more coming from the soul inside also as well.
عشان انا بقعد العبها وانا اصلا في عالم خيالي تاني، مش يعني انا كنت بلعب مثلا وانا في الارض in my farm مثلا and I live in another place at the same time. Like I see people dance and I play music but no one around me. I'm alone. ماشي. انا بقول لك شويه حلوين يعني كده.
In his mind while he's doing music he is traveling like beyond his own room.
And for those who are less familiar, can you just talk a little bit about the area where you live and where you grew up, and how it's different from Cairo, for example, which you were very clear about in the class earlier today.
It's more quiet.
Yeah.
Clear air. More oxygen. Green life.
ازاي اثرت ده على الموسيقى؟
Natural. طبيعة.
So nature
أيوة هي
affected
Nature.
his way of creating music instead of Cairo. So Cairo is like hustling and bustling, one of the biggest cities in in the whole region. So he prefers to stay in Minneapolis because it's more
No cars.
relative to him. I mean, quite he's also has a big family there, so it's more connected to the place.
مش حد يعرف يعمل ميوزك. الإزعاج بيغير مودك في ثانية. يعني أنت لو مثلا
Noise
like to be
takes
quiet
it
and
out
play
from the sound.
slow music. Like you imagine you dance with a beautiful girl, piano stuff, and someone comes got ta 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 كده. What you it will put you outside. Imagine you put yourself in it. You have to make the same sound. Ta 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 ta. It's completely. So it's really. I think it's a place. It's very important, more than the tools. The place you play. So when you start to play music, if you handle guitar, oud, nai.
So it's not coming from the tools, it's
From
coming from the region or the place where he grew up. It's better to maintain.
وانا لسه عندي
the
مشكلة ان انا
relation.
اعزل الاستوديو لحد دلوقتي. عايز اعزل الاستوديو. عايز استوديو.
Till now, he
عايز يكون عندي استوديو اقدر اقول
Isolate his own
without
studio.
my people think I'm crazy. يعني دايما يعني الناس اللي حواليا بيحسوا ان انا حد.
ركز في الموضوع الميديا.
ايوه ما هو ده برضه ده مهم
So
برضه.
in his area, he didn't isolate the room while the room where he is doing music. So people outside the room hates the way he screams in the room. So it's also part of his process doing this music. So this affects him as well. So it's like back and forth. with
انا
the-
بتكلم
the area.
في حته ان it's a place for the musician. It's really changed the way you think about music. يعني مثلا I'm from a region. We play with more and do more noise, but in party, in wedding, not in the house. I sit in my house like that, and I need to make the same noise, but people outside, no wedding right now. How are you musicians? That's what I mean.
Just what the other answer is, I think, for me, for example, I would love to live in Tunis to spend, and because, or in Morocco or something, but the second thing is because our mobility actually is the visa problem and all the things that all of these artists, I think, is diaspora, many of them now live in Europe because the industry is in Europe and it's West. And so if I had the choice, actually, I want to be like more in
Objection.
Tunis. For me, yeah.
I have objection.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it's the industry is not just in Europe. This is one.
Yeah. It's true. It's true. But but Egypt and Tunis
No,
is
I'm
different.
not. I didn't mention Egypt.
Yeah,
okay.
I didn't say anything about Egypt.
Yeah. But for me, if to just that's why I talk about mobility. When you if you are based with your green passport in Tunis, and I talk about Tunis, it should be more difficult. Even actually, and it's really sad. Even to go to Egypt and Egyptian to go to Tunisia in this Arab area, we don't have. We should have visa to go to play.
But we have internet.
We have it.
Well, being honest, I've been in this industry like since like almost 12 years now. So I've been to Europe a lot. It's the first time here for me to come to an Arabic country. It's our first time, me and Abosahar. So I have history of some for Europe, some in almost close to the country that I've been to Uganda. So and I'm familiar with his music. So it has nothing to do. The dynamics of the industry is not really in a specific area or a specific box. It's more global movement against the passport or the nationality or any of this.
So you don't think that there is a problem of mobility? No.
I think there
I
is
want-
a problem.
yeah, I wanna go over
And I
to- I
think
wanna
you're
go-
talking about the live industry, maybe.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think about
Yes,
live
live.
Concerts, festivals. I think
playing in
it's
festival,
in
not
Europe
to sell
and-
music, about live industry.
You mean the festivals?
Yes,
to
to
play.
perform. If you are
perform.
licensed.
This is a problem for us,
Ah.
for everyone, for European, for Arab people, for
But
anyone.
not the same problem, I think. No?
And the festival is a way of.
I mean, for us, we're in a project where we have two different passports, and it makes a difference.
Yeah,
like
but at
the
the-
mobility.
Do you want to talk a little bit about that experience coming with a Congolese passport and
I mean, Congo is one of
French passport and how
the most
that
difficult in the world,
yeah.
and we have problems since the beginning, which you can value in such a big amount of money. We have sometimes no answers, and still in Europe. Sometimes Makara can stay 3 months after 7 years of a project. We never get granted long-term visa. It brings so much cost
Yeah.
in the project, and obviously for me, I have a European passport,
Yeah.
and it's way more easy to
To
travel
go to Africa. Yeah.
to go to Africa. Yeah.
Yeah.
I still need a visa to go to Congo,
Mhm.
but I get it.
متهيألي احنا لو في مثلا حد اهتم ان هو مثلا انت كفنان ما لكش علاقة بفيزا
He hates
خلاص.
the visa.
انت
Now,
فنان
let's break
تقدر
the
تروح
visas.
تقدر تروح استراليا السويد انديا تشاينا
Create
عشان
an
انت
artist
حد
visa.
بيلعب مزيكا. You come to meet people, have fun, and يعني you come in peace and not come to you know مش عارف. انا شايف ان ده ممكن هيساعد اكتر في انتشار المزيكا
This will help a lot.
و-
When you create an artist visa, this will help a lot.
ومبادلة الثقافة بقى. لو احنا هنتكلم بقى عن ثقافة وفنون
If we're
فالمفروض
talking about culture
الموضوع ده يتحل.
and arts, then you have to fix the first thing first, which is the visa.
Yeah.
So, this is a very tough.
يعني بصراحة
But there is some-
Khalil has a question, and then I have a question for Sima.
Yeah, but just
Yeah, please.
because but I'm really agree with something that for many years we just think about I will talk about live industry like we should be in Europe to or in Western to can have like a career and to make a lot of live etc. But now it's changing with time.
Yes.
Now it's true that I understand that we should stop to be like connect of just that, and we should more think about regional things and Africa, I think for us, for example, or to go to the other country and to stop to focus about industry egal Europe things. I'm agree with that, and we should. But it starts but it takes time, and now there is a new generation, and we have some like political things, like I said.
Everything's changing.
Yeah, but because, for example, for Arab world, we should, and for example, I prefer to play more in Arab world than to.
Because it's at least it's the same
Yes,
language,
exactly.
the same tone.
And when we go, even if we are happy to play in
We're not
different
fighting.
friends,
We're not
etc.
fighting. It's
Yes.
it's just maybe I would say it's a way of communication.
Yeah.
We have a small ground to exactly like this room, like Abu Dhabi.
Mhm.
We different countries in Abu Dhabi.
Yeah.
We, I didn't meet yet an artist from Abu Dhabi. It's been here 2 days. This is the second day. So we have it's like a host in like this is a middle ground area between everywhere.
Also, I have to add something. Europe is very small.
Yes.
that's why
Yes,
that's
what-
why it's easy, but because it's small, but
That's-
that's
that-
it.
And
We
towards
have
the world.
we travel all the time.
So,
Also.
Mm.
But I think that's why even in the US it's more difficult to
ذكر
travel.
تارجت أوروبا
like,
بس.
but I agree with what you're saying. At the end
Yeah.
of each, we should
Yeah,
go
yeah.
more out and meet also in different places.
Yeah.
That it doesn't have to be Europe, but it's practical for some reason, and obviously they've created that for a long time.
الفكرة برضه.
And given the pressures around mobility and touring and so on, your decision, Makara, to stay based in Kinshasa as opposed to going to Europe or the US where there might be easier ones.
Donc, moi, je n'ai pas décidé à rester à Kinshasa. Donc c'est difficile pour prendre d'abord le
It's
visa ou
not really a
résidence
decision, it's also linked to
pour rester
visa.
quelque part ici en Europe. Donc de mieux, je restais à Kinshasa, peut-être pour mes inspirations, de créer des choses, c'est bien aussi. Mais des fois, on a besoin aussi de rester un peu ici pour continuer nos activités. C'est un peu ça.
Yeah, a decision would be that you have all the opportunities, and for him, he doesn't have the opportunity to stay as long as he wants in Europe. He does like to come back to Kinshasa, but that should also be a decision that he would be free to take. And at the moment it's not, but we tour a lot, so he can be based in Brussels when he's in Europe, between gigs, but for the moment he's not free to make a decision.
Des fois, on prend des visas de 3 semaines, 1 mois, tu es obligé de retourner chez toi à Kinshasa.
Sometimes we take short visas, it's always, we never know if it's going to be taken. Like the other day, we need to go to the US, we still don't have a visa, we're traveling. The embassy was attacked the other day in Kinshasa, US embassy by protesters because of the situation in the east. So we could not have any appointment, and all the gigs are booked. The gigs are booked, you take your flight later, everything's multiplied by 3, and that's the consequences of this freedom that he doesn't have to travel and to. So it impacts also his career and the touring process.
And the thing,
I'm sorry. In my case, I left Morocco 20 years ago, so it was for study in France, and I noticed that my way of thinking about traveling changed when I had the French citizenship. Something changes for me because I felt equal to go wherever I want as a person and as an artist. And we have the same problem for visas. I had the same problem for visas with my Moroccan citizenship. We asked for visas for Egypt. I didn't have my visa for Egypt. They refused to give me a visa to perform in Egypt. I asked for visa.
No one.
No, it's not you. But I know how it's hard, how we struggle as artists for our mobility. And the question at the beginning was about like the choice to. And in my case, after that you can continue. I said that you leave Morocco when Morocco never leaves you. So it remains in me. Yeah, it's still in me because I think that my roots are there. And I blossom in Europe, but my roots still in Morocco.
I want to add something. I went like 5 years ago. I was in discussion like that, and it was about music Occitane in the south of the France. It's like traditional, and it was something about the same subject, but with like French traditional music, and they talk about this subject. And now, because we are here, we quickly start to talk about political
Mobility.
things and mobility,
Yes.
and it's important to understand that it's actually for us to express ourselves or to think about all this problematic if we take this music, we are with it. But the problem is we have an additional always issue and problem that we can't start to think. For me it will be more easy if I start to think about all this fucking political and visa and mobility things, and to just focus about what I want to express with my music, or if I want to express in other things, and I think it's something that we can't like dissociate, yes, and it's something that you see after like 15 minutes we start to talk about this subject, and it's always like that. When you come with like African, Arabic, South American people, the discussion will quickly be in this kind of and
We have a lot.
Yes.
We have a lot. We have a lot. We have a tremendous culture. That's why.
Sima, we haven't heard from you for a while, and as someone from the U.S., especially the relationship between the U.S. and Cuba is particularly close and also particularly difficult. And now you're living in New Orleans, and I'm curious how some of this conversation is resonating with your situation.
Yeah, the first is that I've been learning a lot here because I had no idea that was that scene of issues in the continent, like Egypt and Morocco for visas, and I was thinking that was just going past and go. And yeah, it's really interesting for us in Cuba. It's quite different.
Yeah.
We are super close of the major industry of music. That I'm really aware, and I really agree that industry is in different places. Basically, the strongest are in different places with the the incomes and the payment, the booking. Oh, this is like a really crazy world that is in different places. The stronger the U.S. is a machine of music in terms of the industry, yeah, and entertainment in general. And we are super close, but we have been with these crazy issues, political, during 60-some years. So during that time, for being a musician in Cuba is crazy, because even, for example, Spotify, when the stream arrived, we don't have access to Spotify. So in Cuba, you don't have a Spotify. In Cuba, you don't have iTunes. In Cuba, you don't have many of the platforms of the streams. So we create a different way to get to the new music.
Different platforms.
No, it was not internet before 2015, before Obama. It was not internet neither. So we created a different way to make a marketing in Cuba that was called El Paquete. It was young kids that in every neighborhood in the country, they put a laptop and they start to share the information. So every week some family bring hard drive from US, and this person was spreading all the information through all his office. To say someplace, somewhere, it was in the backyard of the house. And you go every week with a flash, and you pay like 15 cents for the last TV show that you want to see, or for the last music that you want to hear, for the last playlist. So that began in 2010. And that spread to the whole to the whole country. Yeah, that spread slow, step by step, but that spread in the whole country. At certain level, that for being able to be famous in Cuba, even now that we got YouTube, you need to pass through El Paquete. But that means that if you go out to Cuba, you can have 11 million fans. You can be a huge star in your own country, but if you go out to Cuba, you have 0 subscribers in Spotify. You have 0 stream, so you have 0 marketing at all, because we cannot pay campaign in Instagram. You don't have a bank account outside of Cuba. You don't have money value outside of your country. So it's a whole different world of being able to go forward, but at the end, we super close, and we always try to leave the country and definitely come back, because for us, for me, Cuba is my favorite place. It's being there is the feeding, the thing. So as soon as we go, we make papers in different countries. We figure it out. We try to come back. Some people come back and invest in Cuba. Some people come back and start to make gigs and tours. I've been doing gigs in Cuba after I start to travel. I go every year, all the times that I can. Sometimes one time by the month, sometimes twice a month, because it's really close. But in terms of the industry, it's a different whole world. You gotta move out and try to become successful out, and then you can just come forward, because all the numbers of followers that we have in Cuba, for example, I get really famous in 2018. So I get worldwide, countrywide in the whole country. And then I started to travel in 2018, my first tour. And I started in Europe. It's a different whole environment, because European people go, you don't have to make a bunch of marketing, say Afro-Cuban sound, Ruby sound. People go to the shows, and it was good. But when I arrived to the States, I have to work a lot in marketing and campaign, because people didn't know. And I was super famous in Cuba. That is 90 miles from Miami, 90 miles, and nobody was knowing me there. So it's a really strange thing, but yeah, I decided to go to NOLA because it's the most closest place to the Cuban roots. All the Mississippi and the slave trade was happening there. All the food is the same. Many of the tradition, the communication between the people, and the music is wild. So I choose to stay there. But yeah, it's really different. I really didn't know all this. No idea, not a clue. I had no clue that it was happening for that. But yeah, music is a struggle. It's not a time in the history when musicians have been happy 100%. All the time we have been dealing with things, and music is about that. For that reason, best songs and best music time, it came from the worst times of the history.
In the US itself, like there is a big war.
Yeah,
The music industry, like Spotify.
Yeah, it's crazy, but it's always, but it's always crowd and it's always a space for everybody, because when you make live music, good live music, it's no longer the number one thing that everybody's doing. So if you're doing good live music, you're gonna be fine.
All right, before I have
What do you
more
think?
questions, but
What do you think? What do you think?
What
What is your answer to your own question?
I know that's my own question. No, I think no. What's interesting for me, because I've also been living now for 10 years away from my home. But even in New York, a lot of the work that I did was presenting artists from all over the world. In New York, as an international city, is for me, the things that are important to me is music that is clearly from a specific place, but that can speak out more broadly. So for example, I managed a record label that was based in New Orleans, that was founded by Alan Toussaint, who is now memorialized on the U.S. postage stamp, which we're excited about. When I was managing the record label from New Orleans, the artists who were on that label could only be from New Orleans. They had things to say to people from everywhere else, but when you heard that music, you knew that it came with a sense of history and of heritage, but it didn't stop there. Like the walls didn't close around it, but you could always connect it to the source, which for me is, I think, being in a place like Abu Dhabi, which is so international and is this kind of very strange third place where 90% of the population are from somewhere else other than the UAE, is a place that actually allows for that and doesn't ask you to give up your heritage. It kind of accepts that along with the shared experience of being here. How's that?
He was asking about translation to one word.
Okay.
Heritage.
Heritage.
Yeah.
Okay. I want to open it up to the room before I ask maybe my last question. If anybody has any questions out here.
Do you have any questions for us? It doesn't have to be a question, maybe a chat. Yeah.
Then the last question that I'm going to ask, or the second to last question, is given that question and given my answer about the importance of like a very kind of specific roots, but then speaking across, Abosahar makes music solo. Everybody else is working more in collaboration and collaborating with people who are from different cultures than you're from, right? But yet define the music as being really also specific. So for example, you talk about Aïta is really important because it's Moroccan, yet your collaborator is not Moroccan, right? And you're all working and you're working across different cultural backgrounds. I'm curious about what is the thing you like most about that, and also what's the most difficult part of working in that way across people who are coming from similar lived experiences.
It's very interesting collaborating with Khalil on this project. Working on my own culture, I think that if Khalil was Moroccan, maybe we can be stuck somewhere discussion. Can we do that, or can we allow ourselves to feel free to explore more and to mix this music more? And Khalil being Tunisian, it gives me free. I feel free, and he gives me more freedom to process with my own culture, to dive in on it in an easy way. What was challenging, it also that now he's doing well, so I can't. No, I don't find something like challenging. It's like he was discovering also at the same. He heard a lot, but no, I think just to understand both. We had to understand this music, even if it was it comes from Morocco, but I had to understand it also. So no.
But for me, there is something like, or it can be add for what we did said. It's I have another project working about Tunisian music. And what I understand too, and I talk about it in the first answer, is actually even our proper music start to be strange for us, for a generation. So, for example, because of this, I will not start with this big discourse about mondialization, but it's true because our generation, when they're born, they more listen for American pop and rap music and etc. than our music, because they believe that this music is not something for our generation and something old and just our parents listen it. So, for example, in the Aishusha project, when I play like very different music of Tunisia, the country, and from the south and the north, etc.
And Tunisia is a small country.
And Tunisia is a small country. A lot of people who come to my country, they don't know, even when they are Tunisian, they don't know we have this kind of music in this kind of region and the country. And it's one of the problem actually, because we don't take it and we don't, for this generation, they don't see in this music that they can like express themselves with this sound, because for them, I repeat the same things, but it's always something from another way, another place will come to give him the moyen d'expression. Like, yes, I don't know if it's
the grass is greener.
Yeah, something. But start to like change. I believe in this 10 or more years, and and it's different between country and country. For example, I believe in Maghreb and Masr, they have more like something more with their roots, because it's like big countries, and when I'm sometimes with like little country like Tunis and etc., it's always like seen like sense d'infériorité, like it's like
less, you feel less than others.
Yes, they feel less than others, so everything comes from the other side, and even when we play Arab music, actually in Tunisia we play Egyptian music, and a lot of Tunisian music start to be forget, because when we talk about Arab music, we talk about Egyptian music, and it's not. We have different music, and there is this problem too. Yeah.
Cima, your records, you're often you've got lots of special guests, and it's become kind of a big hallmark is kind of being surprised. There's George Clinton, there's Monsieur Pernet, there's kind of all of these artists from a lot of places outside of Cuba. So I'm curious about how that plays out with you, either when you're writing or in the studio.
Most of the time, I think that most of the time is the song. The song, when I was making the song of the beat of the groove, the image arrived. Example with George was like that. I was more connected with Ohio players in the time, listening a lot, and I was cooking that groove with a similar tempo of Ohio. And as soon as I made the first bass line, came to me the George is speaking. I get the way that he talks in the Funkadeli album. And most of the time is that it's the song that asked me that. Trying to collaborate, and it's great. It's one of my favorites in getting to the studio, especially with these legends. They're all cats. There's people that I have been admired for forever. Be able to get into the studio with them and learn, because they always teaching, and you feel sometimes that it's gonna be tension, because they are who they are. They are the influence that put us in the way to spread the funk and the styles of the funk, and then they're just chilling in the studio. They're just chilling. They're just nice and groovy, and they just want to record and talk, and it's great. It's a really special process of learning with all the people that I've been collaborating. Last time I was in Casablanca, that youth from Morocco, and I was playing with this band called Salem. And it was amazing, because we didn't know they got the tempo similar to Cuba. We got the tempo similar to Morocco. But we get to some consent. We get to some, like we understand each other in the rehearsal in a way that we couldn't do at the live show. In the rehearsal was like, we couldn't get the tempo because they was. And it's different. It's just a small, tiny amount of time that is different from the Cuban clave. That is different, but you get stuck because it's hard for us to follow, and we get in the rehearsal, but in the show we couldn't get it. It was like, yo man, we just cannot handle it now. But it was super fun, because it's always a point of connection between musicians. When you get into the studio with good vibe, you're always gonna find a common point, so it's gonna be fun.
Right. And Makara, Xavier?
I think for us the music part is the easy part. Like as soon as we met, like I met Makara when he was doing some public rehearsals in Kinshasa. He has a lot of dancers. He has like quite what I would say like a punk spirit, even though there's no punk movement in Congo. I make electronic music, but I used to play in bands before. And when we started making music together, it was super easy, super obvious. Like I got super inspired by whatever he was proposing, and vice versa. And then it just was so easy. The other part after is more like the cultural difference is me to adapt in Kinshasa to also understand it, and same when Makara was coming to Europe. So we were each other's guide in very different environments who have different sets of rules or danger, and I think that's why also we stick together because we need each other, you know. So but musically it's always, je dis en musique c'est toujours plus facile entre nous de créer des choses. We talked before.
Well, there are so many more questions, but we have had a long day. We've got a couple more days with all of you visiting classes at the university. Workshops tomorrow, we've got 2. Cimafunk is doing one, and KOKOKO are doing one. Those are at 6:30 and 7:30, I believe. The performances are starting at 7 o'clock outside of East Plaza with KOKOKO, followed by Cimafunk, and then we move indoors to the Black Box with Aïta Mon Amour and Abosahar and all of you. And we are really grateful to everybody, especially since people are all communicating across many different languages and many different accents, and also I'm sure you've got other narratives that are going on in your head in your native language that didn't reach it to the audience, but we're so grateful to all of you. Thank you all for coming. Thank you to Marabla for sponsoring our Off the Stage series, and we'll see you very soon. Thanks.
Thank you.